I think it's safe to say that Up the Beanstalk, since its release, has been more and more impressive over time, and is definitely one of the best card draw spells that we've seen on Arena, if not the best, honestly. Like, this card is absolutely ridiculous for what it does in specific decks, of course. Now, there are probably draw spells that are better in a vacuum, but in a deck that is tailored towards, utilizing this effect, this card is just ridiculous, especially the more powerful a format is and the more tools you have to enable it that don't necessarily play fair with the actual text itself. And what I mean by that is going to be cards with a mana value 5 or greater that you can cast for less mana. The perfect example for that being Leyline Binding, which you can actually get down to 1 white to cast, which means that you're essentially drawing a card for a unconditional removal spell with flash, instant speed, and you're drawing a card off of it. If you have one Beanstalk, and of course if you have multiple, well, you kind of just have infinite cards at that point. But it is especially apparent in this metagame where card advantage is necessary in decks that are slower, and actually, I mean, in almost every deck you need card draw, but specifically in controlling decks, the card draw used to be very awkward because the meta is sped up, the meta is very tempo oriented, and it's actually more and more difficult to pass your turn, quote unquote, to draw cards with a card like a Deluge, for example, where you're paying 4 mana to draw 2 cards. But for you to do that, obviously you have to spend the 4 mana, and if your opponent's curving out, well, you're falling further and further behind. So having your card draw tied to a permanent that's cheap, that will just automatically draw you cards while you're casting the spells that stabilize you, is a huge advantage, and is something that no other card can currently do, for definitely not in standard. So this brought the power level of control decks that are playing around Up the Beanstalk much higher, and even mid-range decks can use Up the Beanstalk. So that's what's really good about this card, is that once you build your deck around it, you're going to be in a situation where you can be proactive, and you being proactive also draws you more cards, allowing you to be even more proactive. Or in the case of a control deck, you can just remove stuff, replace those removal spells with new cards, and then keep doing that until you win the game, which can definitely happen with this deck. It also is really good with adventure spells that you can cast for the adventure side for cheaper, and then the other side of the card, or the front, there's no front side, but the actual card itself, the whale, for example, being 6 mana, you can cast that later and draw a card off of it. So you're getting the adventure value, and then you're getting the actual creature that will draw your card. So Band Control is probably the perfect illustration of why this card is so good. You have access to the X cost spells that you can cast for greater mana than, well, I mean, they're flexible, right? You can cast them for cheap, you can cast them for more mana, even if you're exiling something with March that costs like 2 mana, so like a 2 CMC spell, you can still pay 5 mana and get that card draw off of the Beanstalk. Same thing for Syncopate. And also we have a premium sweeper, which is pretty much perfect, lines up very well with Up the Beanstalk in Sunfall, so you can sweep the board while also drawing a card. I don't know, all this is just very good. It allows you to keep up the pace of the game much better than other control decks did in the past, and it's something that is only possible with Up the Beanstalk as it is currently, because it draws a card upon entering the battlefield itself. That's really the key part of the card, is that it replaces itself, and then it is also a threat on the battlefield where you're going to be gaining that card advantage eventually. It's just pretty much the perfect card draw spell, I have to say. Like, I don't know, I can't imagine a better spell for decks that can utilize it. It's just too good. Like, 2 mana draw card, it's, if it was 3 mana, it would definitely be not as good. But 2 mana, it's like perfectly costed for the effects and the utility it brings to the table. It's just so good. Other than that, talking about Beanstalk, the sideboard has not changed at all almost. I'm still really prepared for mono red with the Sunset Revelry, the knockout blows, the lockdown. I'm also ready for more slow matchups where I have the extra syncopate, the extra dissipate, and the extra negate in the sideboard. And an Eternal Wanderer that has done an immensely good job at stabilizing me in a variety of matchups. You should probably always play one Eternal Wanderer in your white decks, no matter what they are, unless they're like super aggro, I guess, like super low curve. But this card can do things that people don't really you know, with people don't really know how to handle. Like this card is just crazy. The sweeper is flexible, making 2/2 double strikers is insane. The exiling, the temporarily exiling your own stuff or your opponent's stuff is really crazy, and it's so hard to deal with because of the static where only one thing can attack it at a time. It's kind of a ridiculous planeswalker, and it really deserves to be slotted in into the sideboard at least, or into the main deck. Really, I was considering that because it is 6 TMC. You will draw a card off of it. And then obviously MVP Chrome Host Seed Shark. This card comes out of nowhere and takes games from your opponents, and they never expect it. It seems like. So I mean, even if they do expect it, there's only so much removal they can bring in, and once this sticks, it is absolutely over for your opponent, especially because you're going to be getting 6/6 tokens, so 6/6 incubator tokens with a late line binding cast. No matter if you cast it for 1 or 2 or 3, you're always getting the CMC. So you're also getting 6/6s from this on top of drawing cards with Beanstalk. It gets really crazy. It gets really out of hand. Oh yeah, I do have one copy of Invasion. One thing I noticed in this deck is that you really do want either White Sun's Twilight or something that can go wide and really stabilize the board state without sweeping, so you can prevent hasters from coming in from hand, or like manlands for example. And that is where Invasion comes in. I think it's pretty much a perfect card. You can flex it for 4 mana, you can flex it for 5 mana, draw a card off of Beanstalk, and then it scales up with the amount of mana you have. And yeah, I don't know, I always like having at least one copy of Invasion in my blue-white decks, and this is no exception. So yeah, I love the card. I might as well play it here. I do think this deck might want like one copy of White Virtue because the card is so good and it would draw off of Beanstalk. Also, another note is that I did realize I probably wanted the third March back in just to deal with manlands, because this deals with manlands for 1 mana. I think that's really key. So I would probably play one more March, maybe instead of like a Syncopate sideboard or something. Still haven't decided on the slot that it would take, but something to consider for sure. Before we get into the gameplay, don't forget to click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell to keep up with my future uploads. Lockdown is okay versus Legends. It's okay versus mid-range. I don't know about Legends. I'd rather have Depop against Legends most of the time. Mono white, you'd rather have Depop as well. It's basically only enchantments and yeah, it's only enchantments and mono red where I think Lockdown is better. And soldiers, I guess, probably. Anything with tokens, probably. And we're gonna be drawing 2, I might as well play that. Hey, obviously you have to consider that it's eating my Beanstalk, so unless it's like really that much better, right? Like, so that's why I'm saying like mono red and enchantment are like the main reasons to do that. Which might be justified. Yeah, this is why you don't play that many tap lands in Legends, because you get a curve like this, where this is not justified at all. Where you could have done Denek into Rafine. Do I need to rethink laydown arms? I don't know. It's failed me so many times. I have so much trauma from that thing. I don't know if I want to play it.
harms my people must contend with me. Years of training. May your blade strike true.
Also, I do think you want like a White Sun's Twilight or something. I feel like I might cut a whale for that. Or like again, Invasion is a card I've mentioned a lot that people just seem to be sleeping on. I feel like there is yeah, there is some fear in this deck of drawing too many cards, legitimately, because there's not that many win cons. Again, I think this deck needs. I mean, yeah, this I'm gonna change it a little bit. Even Virtue, I think, would help slightly. If you played more Mirexes, for example, you can get Virtue to like pump the Mirexes tokens, which actually matters. White Sun's Twilight would be interesting. Oh wow, I actually gave them a target for cut down. That's not great. It's not great because obviously I took 2 extra damage there.
I hope you're ready to lose.
Crab is not very good.
This is what you get for hurting my people.
Also, I'm not a huge fan of Syncopate. I feel like Syncopate is bad. Like, this deck, you don't need a counter spell that draws you another card most of the time. I would say that's relevant very situationally against mid-range. And I think the more likely scenario is that you have either a whale or a bunch of bindings on the board and you need to protect those against things. And I think that's more important. So like the 2 mana negate, for example, would just hard counter anything that threatens either your whale or your beanstalks or your bindings. Yeah, I know I drew like a very card draw heavy hand, but like I guess it's not necessarily about decking out, but more so like finding yourself with more than 7 in hand, having to discard is not super good most of the time, because all your spells are actually good in this deck, and they're all very mana hungry, so you can't use them all in sequence unless you draw bindings all the time. Okay, this is the token deck, which makes lockdown a little bit more interesting, but also it's a matchup where Beanstalk is good, so I'm not the biggest fan of running it. Also, yeah, again, like lay down arms is like it's interesting. Maybe I just go back to playing it. I don't know. Like the land counts for lay down arms is very bad. Like usually I drew very well in the first game. Maybe that's why I'm thinking it's better than it is. Like oftentimes it's 2 times less than the amount of lands you have total. So on 4 mana it would be 2, which is very bad most of the time. But I guess Elspeth's Might also it is instant though. That's the only thing I like about it. But it also only deals with like 3 CMC maximum, so but again, the fact that it's instant frees up a lot of mana most of the time. You open up the flexibility of like seeing what your opponent does first. I don't know, it's interesting. But also the fact that they have to attack is not good either, so I might go back to lane. We'll see. I don't think the whale is that good in this matchup. It's fine, but it's not great. I don't think March is that good in this matchup at all, actually. Wait, I need to cut 3 things? Yeah, screw it. I'm too lazy to do the math here. I don't think it's 3 whales, but it could be. It could just be shark. I think shark's better than whale in this matchup. I could be wrong, though. What do I think of other formats? I don't like any of them that are on Arena, so that's why I don't play them. There's a reason I only play Standard. Alright, this is gonna go very well. So that's good. Hopefully. I say that, but I mean, I might get wrecked. I don't know. Is it a tempo game or is it a card advantage game? It's looking like a card advantage game to me. But also, it could very well be a tempo game as well. It's kind of interesting. Because both of these cards are extraordinary with Beanstalk. One is very mana inefficient though, and I already played a land, which would have been a mistake if I am casting this. I could go for like very heavy aggression, which might be interesting, but also I don't have the mana to use it. I think it's always Beanstalk, but I did screw it up. Alright. Okay, didn't get it anyways. And I also want to dig for land anyways, so it's fine. This will come into play eventually. Oh, well, I do regret not playing that now that they have this, but not too much I can do. Oof. Wow, that would have been nasty if I drew that last turn. Do I give them a card for free? Probably not. I just take their thing, upkeep. Engage. I mean, I'm getting free cards from this. Oh, they have double counterspell. That's very unfortunate, actually. Ooh, that is not good. I really didn't want them gaining recurring card advantage, but looks like they're gonna do that anyways. I have to play Mega Sorcery Speed now, which is kind of annoying. Still a decent spot. Again, I have like... They just used 2 counters, and I replaced those cards, so I'm still winning on card advantage, even with this doing its thing. And I still have double Sunfall, Eternal Wanderer, so it's not like I'm not doing anything. Okay. That's a little late. That already did its job. Okay, that's annoying. I need to resolve this, I think.
Thanks. I'll be too now.
Okay, that's fine. Alright, so I'm doing this then. Alright, sure. Ooh, this is a little bit interesting as well. I don't really value this at all. I think I value the 2/2 almost more, but also like if I'm planning on sunfalling, I think that's a mistake then.
We've got the edge in this fight.
But it's not like they can actually deal with the Wandering Emperor anyways. Okay, that's fine.
It's like your defenses.
Ooh, I don't have counterplay to their Wandering Emperor, which kind of sucks. I'm just gonna slam this then. Make a bunch of things.
I fight for the
I could
entire
also
multiverse.
plus, which isn't ridiculous. Because if I'm gonna minus this, so I don't really want this pinging my planeswalkers for free. Also, I don't want them to be able to...
Protect the people.
Is sacrificing my shark worth it? No. Yeah. Like, I don't want them getting a free attack into a free card. I'd rather they loot here or attack where it's not actually good.
Now, what do we have here?
I will be able to swing next turn though, which is nice. And I can easily just minus this and then go in. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Keep
There's not much
going.
counterplay to this. Going wide doesn't work. And just relying on single creatures also doesn't work.
Kneel before the Emperor of Kamigawa.
Yep. Okay, sure. I mean, I think this matchup is fine. The mid-range version. I think Esper Legends is actually harder. Much harder. And you have 4 mana. You can do Candy Trail until, like, make disappear or something. Activate Candy Trail. Maybe. I'll revisit Blue White eventually. But I'm still like, I think the problem is that there's already Faithful Bending. That's my main issue with Candy Trail. I feel like it's extremely difficult to justify Candy Trail over Faithful Mending when the card is just miles ahead in terms of overall value and overall like utility. Oh man. Yeah, it just had to be on the draw against Talia as a control deck with like pretty much nothing to do other than countering on turn 3, which I can't do anymore. I feel like Mending? Mending is insane. Can't counter because I'm taxed. Mending is insane because it allows you to shift your main deck and dig for cards that are relevant. The weakness of a control deck is that all your answers are not good against everything, and you need to find those answers quickly. And usually, you have those answers in hand. This goes down to 3, and then I just take it now, probably. There's no way they're playing counterspell. Maybe I just wait. Yeah, maybe I just wait. It's draw 2, pitch 2, but also gain 2 life and repeat again. That's a lot of value. The main way you're losing as a control deck is you're facing another control deck and you have Sunfall, Binding or something, and then they just draw the right side of the deck and you lose. And the other way you lose against aggro or mid-range decks is you have counterspell, 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 and then they just play an aggressive hand and you're screwed. And Candy Troll doesn't help with that because it's the scry helps obviously, but what if you have those cards in your opening hand and you can't guess what your opponent's playing? You have to keep an opening hand that's reasonable no matter what. So you might have an opening hand that is just terrible against the specific matchup you're facing in the moment, and Mending helps you recover from that position while gaining the life. Again, the life gain is key. If it was just loot for 2, I would never play it. Looting is very powerful in this game. Just because there's so much variance, right? And looting that can be repeated from the graveyard that also gains you life is pretty much like doing exactly what you'd want in a control deck. It's extremely difficult to justify not playing it. I mean, I guess I just brick the I just brick whatever they target. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Ideally this, but that's okay too. Maybe I just let them loot 1 and then I just nuke everything. It's probably correct.
Now you've got it. Hat's coming off.
It's probably correct. Candy Trail on 2 after tap lands turn 1/2.
My
Sure, yeah.
judgment is
But again, like, I mean, yeah, sure. Having more 1 mana plays is always nice. I agree. I don't know. Candy Shell is not like, it's not bad. I will never say that Candy Shell is a bad card. I just think it's very mild. Like it's very safe. And I think safe in a standard meta that's been here for like years, that has developed its power level incredibly quickly. Like it's still in a very high powered state. I don't know if Candy Troll makes the cut in most matchups, but like it is fine. But there should always essentially there should always be a better card that you could play instead of Candy Trail. But those cards are probably more matchup specific, which is why you might want Candy Trail, where that card is neutral in every matchup, if not positive in aggro matchups that have burn, for example. But there's always going to be a specific card that helps you more in a specific matchup. Unless you're mana screwed and you scry 2 and you find land off the top. Like again, the hand fixing is nice. That's probably the main reason you could justify it. Legends. Legends. I don't know. Thalia is just like Thalia when I'm playing this thing is probably not the smartest thing ever. Yeah, colorless Scry 1 is very good. The Scry 2, I mean, it's very like that is already good enough. So yeah, again, it's not like it's never gonna be a bad card. And it might be a good card too, so yeah. It's kind of like when people used to play Opt, right? Like in some decks. Opt is fine. Like it's always fine in a blue deck. I'm not keeping a one-lander. Pretty sure Wandering Emperor is not as good just because Skrelv exists. But I'll try it. Maybe I will change my mind. Maybe I will realize that Candy Troll is like a necessary component to control decks. That's entirely possible. Counterspell? In postboard, it wouldn't be surprising to see counter magic. I think negate usually, or they're gonna kill this, which I think is very interesting. And they're losing a land, which is even more costly. I think that's probably a mistake. Ooh, this is interesting. I think I like cycling, but also I have lay. That's the problem with lay, is that it makes you reconsider just playing the land straight up. And I really hate lay. I wish there was like a better, wish there was a better alternative. I really do. It does pain me a little bit. I don't think I want to use this actually. But they have, I think I have to. They have the plaza, and that's a little bit scary. Again, but this time I have 3, which is more comfortable. I don't really feel like I'm in... actually, you know what? Maybe I do regret that, because the way the game's going, I think actually slamming this whale is actually good. I could be wrong though. This is such a good position for me that pretty much anything wins me the game, I think, most of the time. So I guess we just sit back and see what happens.
Feel the energy of battle.
Never punish? Never punish for what?
May your blade strike true.
Okay, I forgot this card existed actually. I actually forgot I was playing Beanstalk because I didn't draw it, right? I was wondering about which land to play. And it worked out. Well, I didn't need 6th land there. I wasn't playing around finding 6th land. But yeah, sure. It was nice to find 6th land, but that was not my game plan. Otherwise, I would never channel that. Or cycle that. I was just looking for more resources, because I'd kind of win the resource battle either way. But yeah, the land does help there, sure. Okay, so they have... Okay, that's annoying. Oh, that's good. Okay. Okay, sure. Sure. Okay, LA is pretty nice here. Well, actually, I mean, yeah, no, it's pretty nice. 1 mana, get Plaza out, that's fine. I mean, 1 Plaza. Not that good, I guess.
Surrender now, and we all leave with our lives. We can win this together. We've got the edge in this fight.
Okay. I mean, this thing has done work, honestly. I guess I'm not totally surprised. I always like 1 copy of Wanderer. If not 2, I don't know. Especially in the deck that can just draw off of it with the Beanstalk. It's 3 wins against red. I have not seen any mono red today and yesterday and the day before that, so... But again, if there's a lot of mono red running around, sure. I've literally played against 0 until now. But again, it's definitely possible that a lot of people are playing mono red. I'm just not seeing it, so... Yeah, Arena is very... Everybody has their own meta game, that's the thing. And that's why everybody has, like, disagreements over deck lists and everything. It just depends on what you're facing. That's always the case. Like, people are like, why are you playing this? Or why are you not playing X card? Well, I'm not playing X card because I'm not facing the deck that X card is good against, or I'm playing X card because I'm playing against this deck. Wait, what? Why did they take that? I probably do have to play more March, just because I did come to the realization that I can't remove that. And that's probably enough of a problem to justify more copies of March. I'm gonna keep the counter because I do want to draw off of it. It might be wrong. think it's correct in my spot. Play the red to get the red unlocked. Keep this out. I'm very happy to have invasion in this matchup, which is kind of nice. Actually, am I happy to have invasion when they have Gix's command? I can just hold counterspell. I guess I can perma-stall the game until I have negate up. I'm almost 100% positive that you'd want 3 negates instead of dissipate main deck. Could be wrong though. Like negate to protect the whale or the invasion seems to be pretty important. Or I guess you just stall until you draw infinite cards, which is also fine, to be honest. Yeah, maybe that's the play. It's just you don't really care if things get removed, or as long as you have the Beanstalk, it's just permanently refreshing. But win eventually, right? I guess I just don't have the patience. I just want to finish the game off immediately. Also, instead of invasion, I could also just see playing the Wanderer in the main deck, which might make sense as well. I think Wanderer is probably less of a win con than invasion though. It's just overall more flexible and probably better on average. Okay, I'm just playing the whale and then I'll remove that. Wait, can I remove that? No, I can't. Oh, that sucks. I guess I can. I'll just spend wait. Wait, there's nothing in the graveyard. What am I yapping about? I mean, this is probably going to the graveyard, but then I just nuke that on their turn, which is probably fine. Wells are decent to stall manlands? Yeah, sure, they are. But you kind of want to attack with them. You can race manlands, unless you're low, which of course is not ideal. Nothing in the graveyard. Exile, 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 exile. Exile, exile. Oh, that's coming back. Probably. Nope. Anticipate in this matchup, I'm very happy to have, so that's pretty good. Syncopate as well, I'm very happy to have. I think post-board, I'm kind of happy about this. I do want to keep, yeah, I do want to keep these most of the time. This is just a few copies of Sunfall, and then the last card is kind of just whatever. I don't think it's Whale, because Whale deals with manlands as well, which I kind of forgot about. Honestly, I think Binding is terrible, but it's kind of like, I mean, still draws me a card, but very risky card. It's not terrible. It's definitely weaker than it is against other matchups. Is it better than Lay? Yeah, probably yes, because I can draw. Is it better than? Nah, screw it. I don't know. The fact that I can draw is definitely like, sure. I remove something, they get it back. That's not good, but I do most of the time draw a card off of it. So Dissipate is slow on the draw. Oh yeah, also they have Lily, you're right. But Dissipate is not a 3-mana counterspell. It's not a turn 3 counterspell. I mean, I'm using it as like a turn 7, turn 8 counterspell. So yeah, sure, if I draw it, it's bad, but any card I play instead is going to be bad as well. So there's no real point in comparing Dissipate to anything else, because it could only be a counterspell and it's not negate. So it's either Stroke, which is useless against Lily as well. I mean, if I had more negates, I would probably play them, but I don't. And I'm not gonna just play spot removal because that also doesn't do anything against Lily. So, and there's literally, I mean, I could play Shark, but that's also bad against Lily. So everything's bad against Lily. There's, yeah, there's no argument against Dissipate. Hey, Jam Bomb. The rest, no Lily is good. Gives me a little bit more time. I'd rather dissipate than leyline. Yeah, but I ended up on 4 leyline, so that doesn't even work anymore because I came to that conclusion already. Now you could say you might want lay down arms instead of dissipate. That's maybe possible, but I don't think that's correct because the match is long enough where I think dissipate will always find its mark at some point, and it will be very, very effective at that. That's a little bit annoying. How is standard right now? I don't know. Why are you asking me that? I don't play that much. I mean, I don't play the game that much, so I'm not sure. I think it's fine. Seems like I can play just about everything. Well, I guess that's not true. But, like, within reason, I could play what I want to be playing. It is a little bit boring, but yeah, again, just like all the other... most of the other standard formats that have been happening. It's less boring than when Fable's a thing, I guess. I think it's always correct to deluge here. I'm not really holding anything up, so I might as well hit my land drops, try to go further here into the game. Oh, I'm not sure that was correct. I think it was, but I just immediately picked this, but I was skeptical if it actually helped me with my binding, but it does. And the other one's the same thing, right? Because it's red. I just forgot which triumph I had in play already, which could have mattered. Yep. There. That's a very good draw. Yeah, binding without Beanstalk, definitely not my favorite situation to be in, where I'm just playing this, it gets removed, it's a 1-for-1, but they get their threat back. Is not like my favorite thing ever, but it's fine. Yes, I have played Dead Cells a lot.
Run away. You'll be
Yeah, it's
safe.
pretty good. Very hard.
This is what you get for hurting my
Kind of annoying. I think it's this. I'm not 100% though.
I have got new moves to teach you.
Yeah, Dead Cells is extremely difficult. I mean, an easier and more fun immediately version of Dead Cells is definitely Skull. Skull is fantastic. It's way more accessible. I feel like aesthetically it's more appealing as well, but the gameplay loop is probably a little bit less interesting than Dead Cells. I mean, overall as a game. That's even arguable. I prefer Skull, but just because it's easier. And also, like, again, aesthetically, it's incredible. If you enjoy my content and would like to help me keep making it, consider supporting me over on Patreon, where you're getting access to a bunch of bonus videos, as well as other rewards depending on the tiers. And thank you so much to all the lovely patrons that are already subscribed. I appreciate it very much. And I will see you all in the next video.